Francis Ngannou has signed on to box Anthony Joshua on March 8th in Saudi Arabia. Again, boxing, not MMA. There's lots to unpack here, but I first want to know, what do you guys think of the Predator going back to boxing, keeping in mind that he's not fought in MMA in almost 2 years? All right, Fada, take it away. You get the first take.
I love it. I mean, considering the amount of momentum he built after that fight with Tyson Fury, a close fight, a fight a lot of people felt like he won. Of course, he has to go back to boxing. I don't think there's too much out there for him in MMA, especially under the PFL banner. Now, Francis looked great against Tyson Fury. He showed everyone that he's for real and that he didn't fumble the bag like everybody else thought. And here's the thing: I mean, Anthony, the fact that he can draw a name like Anthony Joshua after a loss or a controversial loss shows how much momentum he has built after that Tyson Fury fight. He was in discussions to fight either Wilder or Anthony Joshua. Those aren't bad options for somebody who's only boxed once professionally in his life. So I think the fact that he can draw such a big fight shows the momentum and the impact that Francis Ngannou had after that fight with Tyson Fury. So I love it, and I think it's absolutely the right move for him.
Mm-hmm. Goes, what's your reaction, man? You like boxing, so you might be actually be warm to this one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all depends on whose eyes you're looking at the situation from, right? If you look at it through Francis Ngannou's eyes, I think it's an opportunity you cannot pass up. It's another massive payday against a top level boxer. Anthony Joshua, I mean, dude, that guy's one of the top guys, and he's a little bit more technical, I think, than Tyson Fury. So we got to watch out there. But in my opinion, it all comes at a good time, because when you really think about it, if you're Francis Ngannou, all right, if you get that rematch and you look silly, chances are you may not get another rematch, right? So I think what he needs to do is go out there and just kind of have a good performance, make it to the end, because Anthony Joshua, remember, like, this is not catching anybody by surprise anymore. We all know Francis Ngannou can be pretty dangerous in boxing. So I think you got to make it to the end, and now you preserve that third fight, possibly a rematch with Tyson Fury, right? A makeup. I'm sure it probably bugs Tyson Fury that a lot of people think that Francis Ngannou won that matchup, right? It's a massive payday. I think he absolutely had to take it. If you look at it from the PFL's eyes, well, what do we do here? I think it's great in the sense that it puts a lot of eyes onto Francis Ngannou. It builds that name for eventually him to step into that smart cage. Now, what do you have when he gets there, though? If he loses again, which, let's be honest here, a lot of people didn't really look at that first fight as a loss. A lot of people kind of looked at it as a win, even though he did lose the fight. A lot of people thought he won the fight. But if you were to take a bad loss against Joshua, or just even the 0-2, he's a guy who carries the baddest man on the planet title, right? Maybe you lose a little bit of that mystique a little bit by the time he gets to the PFL, but I think it's all forgiven once we actually see him in a mixed martial arts matchup. So I think it's kind of a win-win for both sides. And I'm just excited to see his name attached again to another big payday. You don't know what that does for our sport, for other fighters. It just kind of gives them new life. So I think this is very, very tremendous for Francis Ngannou.
And it's all happening so quick, Goes. We had to go through his injury, we had to go through the breakup with the UFC, and now, yeah, the momentum's just incredible. All right, Danny Segura, man, what do you think about this announcement? Another bag has been secured, and he's fighting one of the top boxers in the world. This guy's not messing around, man. These aren't jabronis he's throwing down against.
I'm a bit split on this one. I'm a combat sports fan, so I enjoy boxing, but I'm primarily an MMA fan. That's why, I'm working in the MMA industry, and I want to see Francis Ngannou, who may or may not be the baddest man on the planet. It depends where you rank him and John Jones, but I want to see him in MMA, even if it's against some lesser known names in the PFL, Ryan Bader, whatever it may be. It might not be John Jones. That one seems to have sailed, but we can still get him against some good names and see him in his best craft, which is mixed martial arts. So I'm a little bummed that he's stepped now further into the boxing world. But that's not to say I won't enjoy a fight with Anthony Joshua. I'm still excited for this fight, and I think it's actually very intriguing, especially how he looked against Tyson Fury. It's given us some hope that he might be able to do the damn thing. And all of a sudden, against Anthony Joshua, I'm not saying he's the favorite, and I don't think he will be, and I don't think he is right now. But you can't discard his chances after just going to distance with Tyson Fury and knocking him down. Sure, you can make some arguments here and there that Tyson Fury maybe didn't take the fight as seriously as he should have, but even an out of shape Tyson Fury would mop up 99.9% of the heavyweights out there. So just the fact that he knocked him down, went to distance, and in many people's eyes, he won the fight. I think he's got a shot against Joshua. And something that I think it's very interesting is all of a sudden I've seen the fan perception change. Now I've seen fans rally behind Francis Ngannou, and you can see it now in the comments as well. People are picking Francis Ngannou to knock out Joshua and rooting for him, whereas going against Tyson Fury, the sentiment was, oh, he's just doing it for the money. He knows he's going to lose. It's a default loss. This is a freak show. This is not a real competition. This is just a paycheck. And all of a sudden, I feel like the vibe around Francis Ngannou and the idea of him boxing at an elite level has drastically changed. So I'm in. The part of me of the MMA fan is a little bit sad, but all in all, I'm pretty happy that this fight's happening. It's making the heavyweight division in boxing far more exciting. And who knows, maybe if he picks up a win, maybe we can see him fighting for a title. I don't know where this might lead to, but Francis Ngannou's story, just completely remarkable.
Mm-hmm. You know, he's only 37 years old, Fada, and in heavyweights, like that's still a prime, you know. So do you think we'll still see him come back to MMA? Because what if he beats Anthony Joshua? These bags they're handing out in Saudi Arabia are huge. Do you think we'll see him back in MMA?
I think it depends how he looks against Anthony Joshua. If he puts up a competitive fight, win, lose, or draw, I think he sticks to boxing. If he gets like wiped out or knocked out quick earlier or anything like that, then I don't know what's going to be out there, because then people are going to point to his performance against Tyson Fury and call it a fluke, this and that. So I think if he just puts on a competitive performance against Anthony Joshua, I think it's good enough for him to stick around in boxing, because who knows what happens with Fury's next fight. If Fury loses, maybe they could do the rematch. But if he gets wiped out by Anthony Joshua, that's when I think he would probably return to MMA. So it all depends on his performance and if he looks good against Anthony or not.
Mm-hmm. And do you like the way things have been going so far, regardless of whether it's been boxing or MMA? Is this anything you envisioned or could have even predicted, I guess?
No, because I was one of those guys that initially just thought he had no chance against Tyson Fury. And he shut me up. And realistically, I mean, I look at this fight with Anthony Joshua and you want to almost say the same thing. I mean, these are high level boxers, right? But Francis has just kind of shown us that everything he does, he takes seriously. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I don't know what happens as far as MMA, because you would think if he does put up a great performance with Joshua, even if he wins, you almost want to starve that boxing community and make them want to make you come back to boxing, like hold out a little bit. But then if you go to MMA and you lose there for some reason, maybe you lose some of that mystique that people like that wouldn't transfer over to boxing. So it's kind of a dangerous game to play, but I'll tell you what, he probably loses less sleep with all the money he's already made and the money that's going to come. I don't know that it's a heartbreak decision anymore.
Yeah. Danny, one last thing here before we move on. Who does he come back to when he does come back to the PFL? Renan Ferreira is their current champion. Fabricio Verdum threw his name in the hat as a former UFC champion who might have more clout, but he's also like 46 years old. He just took a loss to Junior Dos Santos in a fight that they had on another promotion. And then you got other guys that are outside of the UFC throwing their names in the hat, including like a Ryan Bader, Impa Kasanganay as well, and a few others. But who do you think is the leading favorite when he does come back?
I really like the Renan Ferreira fight. He's a scary dude. He might not be promotionally very well known, but like that to me, as far as just action in a matchup, I think it's a great fight for Francis Ngannou, a great fight for the fans. But part of me thinks that Francis Ngannou is not going to come back to MMA. I really do see him now more as a role as an ambassador for the PFL, kind of teasing us that he's going to fight there. But I just don't see him fighting for the PFL. Not to be disrespectful towards MMA and the PFL, who I've covered and I have a lot of appreciation for. But I said this on the announcement, and again, no disrespect, but it kind of feels like he almost graduated from MMA. He almost graduated from the PFL. Even the UFC, look at Conor McGregor. He had to share his revenue of the pay-per-view for the Floyd Mayweather boxing fight with the UFC, whereas Francis Ngannou was his own man. So why is he going to go back to the PFL to fight people that are, way less famous than he is, wear PFL branding shorts, not being able to have all the sponsors and, go through harder training, go into a sport where there's more of a probability for him to lose unexpectedly, et cetera, et cetera. You just go down the line. All the money's at boxing right now. And if he just does okay against Anthony Joshua, the Tyson Fury fight is out there. The Wilder fight is out there. And I would suspect he would do okay given how he did against Tyson Fury. So I don't think we even see him in MMA again.
But you're saying why go to MMA if he beats Joshua, right? Because if he beats Joshua, I think that's where he has to go back to.
Well, no, not really. I think if he has a similar performance against Tyson Fury, if he fights Joshua in the sense that a lot of people think he wins or it's a moral victory, I think people would still be interested in watching him versus Wilder or rematch against Fury, especially if Fury loses against Usyk. I mean, that's going to be very interesting. So I think even in defeat, you'll have to see how some other things play out. But I think the options are there. I think the options are there. Look, Anthony Joshua lost several times, a couple times against Usyk, right? Andy Ruiz, and he's still out here doing big fights. He can just get a tune-up fight here and there, and then he's back in the mix.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Fajeda just because they're matching up. Well, I mean, Fajeda could get Bader too. They did bring those guys into the PFL Smart Cage, champion versus champion. But Francis Ngannou is a wild card, so who knows?